Okay, members, we'll get started here now. You're all very welcome to December's meeting, our last meeting of 2025. I'm going to ask John to take the roll.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you are hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Council, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically here in the Council Chamber, Wednesday, 17th of December 2025 at 2 o'clock. Alderman Cook.
Here, John.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey.
Online, John.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Aye.
Alderman Carrigan.
Here, John.
Alderman McMorris.
Here, John.
Alderman Middleton.
Here, John.
Alderman Montgomery.
Here, John.
Apologies from Alderman Wilkinson. Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Here, John, online.
Councillor Boggs.
And Shaw, John.
Councillor Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Cusick.
Online, John.
Councillor Devine.
Sure.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Sure.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
And Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart. Councillor Heaney. Thank you. Councillor Heaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
Councillor Jackson.
Shaw.
Councillor Leonard.
Sure.
Councillor Logue.
Sure.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley.
Sure.
Councillor McGowan.
And Sure.
Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell.
Shaw, John.
Councillor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Councillor Riley.
Online, John.
Members, we just remind everyone to mute themselves online, please. Councillor Tierney
Here, John.
and Councillor Neelis.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, now read out the broadcasting statement. I'd like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to be informed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting for training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website at www.derrystrabane.com. Item 4 then, members, is declarations of members' interests. You can declare them now or as we proceed through the meeting agenda. Nobody indicating there at the minute, so we'll move on then, members, to Chair's business. I have just a couple of items. First and foremost, I would like to welcome a new councillor, Councillor McGowan. You're very, very welcome. I know you're a sister of John McGowan, who served for a term on council here as well. You're very, very welcome. And I wish you the very, very best. I'm sure you'll do a sterling job in representing people of your electoral ward, so you're very welcome. Councillor Jackson.
On the same note, it's a pleasure to welcome Liz, Councillor McGowan, the chamber today. Liz is a community activist first and foremost, embedded in our community, and I know from talking to Liz over recent weeks, she's chomping at the bit to come in and play a part and work with everybody within this council chamber. She's a fantastic addition to our team, and I have no doubt that she'll do the people of the Waterside extremely proud, as she will do the party extremely proud. So, Culture Roof, Liz, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And Mayor, I do have a number of
I'll
sort
come
of
back to you then.
procedural
Sure,
points.
no problem. You'll want to make a few changes to committees. Okay, we'll come back to you then. So that's Councillor Jackson. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on behalf of the DUP to welcome Councillor McGowan to the Chamber. We're really looking forward to working with you. So big welcome and best wishes for the rest of the term. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Brian Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. And once again, I suppose, let's just welcome you on behalf of the SDLP group and wish you all the best in your new role. Our entire team are looking forward to working with you, and particularly our waterside DA councillors, to see how collectively this council can support the people of the waterside and wider afield. So on behalf of the SDLP, we wish you well in your new role. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, I would like to welcome Councillor McGowan. Look forward to working with you and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and similar to everybody else, on behalf of People Before Profit, welcome to the council. Councillor McGowan, all the best to you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Would you like to make those changes to committees now?
Yeah, hopefully they're straightforward enough, but it's, could I replace Councillor Caitlin Deaney with Councillor Liz McGowan on audit assurance risk, on environment and regeneration, and on health and communities. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, members, the second item I have, Chair's business, is just the staff recognition event that myself and the Chief Executive, heads of departments, and sole Councillor Patricia Logue attended the event in the Guildhall yesterday, and we paid tribute to those of our staff who have served 10, 20, 30 and 40 years. Fantastic event, and obviously we extend our congratulations and our thanks to those individuals. So that brings us in to all items of Chair's business. I'm going to go to the Deputy Mayor first, Nairi.
Thank you, Chair. And just on behalf of myself and our party, we extend the deepest condolences and heartfelt sympathy to the people of Australia following the terrorist attacks in Sydney. Just want to say our thoughts are with those affected, especially the families and friends of the victims. We condemn this senseless violence which appears to have targeted the Jewish faithful while they were lighting candles for Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. There's no justification for any terrorism and or any attack in any faith-based group. So we just want to put on record our condolences to the people that was affected, as we do with everybody that's been affected. We're seeing worldwide now just murder and terror all over the place. And we just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. And similarly, on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, we extend our sympathy to those victims, the families, and indeed the citizens of the wider Sydney area following the attack on those who were celebrating the Jewish festival of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. It was reportedly that the two perpetrators were engaged with Islamic State. I don't know, that's I presume under investigation. But absolutely disgraceful that this would happen. And I think one of the things that struck me on those who were commentating, particularly from the scene, was their fear of the rise in anti-Semitism. And I think those who support issues like BDS and Palestine Action Movement, not intentionally, but in some ways that does add fuel to the demonization of Jews and indeed their nation. And indeed some would seek to eradicate that nation. I think we all, including myself, need to be mindful of our how we voice our opposition to various things going forward. But as I said, sincere sympathy to all of those engaged. And I think it would be appropriate that Council would forward a letter to the Chief Rabbi of the Jewish community in Sydney on this occasion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would join my colleagues in sending our solidarity to Jewish people in Sydney and Jewish people across the world. What happened at Bondi Beach was a disgrace. It was awful. And it is a tragedy that we can't speak about enough and condemn enough. And in our household, my partner's Jewish. We are raising our children to understand the Judaism. We've been celebrating Hanukkah this week, and for it to happen this week is it's just awful. And there is a fear for Jewish people across the world. In fact, that fear's been around a long time. We said never again a long time ago that there wouldn't be a repeat of the Holocaust, and unfortunately, anti-Semitism has never been wiped out. It's never been dealt with, and it still exists. And I do find it frustrating that Alderman Hussey would immediately try to connect the issue of what's happened at Bondi Beach to the global movement that is critical of what the Israeli government has been doing in the last 2 years, in particular, the genocide that it's committed against the people of Gaza. This will not stand, that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia both exist. And in fact, the far right, people like Tommy Robinson, and who some political parties here in Ireland continue to associate themselves with, have been at the centre of promoting anti-Semitism and Islamophobia for many, many years. The principled position is to stand against Islamophobia, to stand against anti-Semitism, and to stand against genocide. And I think that that's what this council should do in terms of its position. I now see that the British police are planning to further the criminalisation of the Palestine Solidarity Movement by threatening to arrest people who might chant "globalise the Intifada." I think that this is, again, coming from a state that is completely complicit in the genocide in Gaza and have in many ways fuelled racism, fuelled anti-Semitism and fuelled Islamophobia over many, many years. So I stand, and I hope this council stands, in full solidarity with Jewish people right across the world. And it is not a contradiction to stand in solidarity with Jewish people and also to be fully critical of the Zionist project that is actually making the world a much more dangerous place for Jewish people, Palestinians, but for all of humanity. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Alderman McMorris for raising this issue. On behalf of the SDLP, I have no issue in expressing our deepest condolences and sympathies to the victims, their families, and the wider community who were caught up in this terrible, terrible attack. The taking of any human life is wrong, regardless of colour, creed, gender, religion, anything. It's wrong. And we, as a party, have always stood up proudly and been able to say that. May that have been here in the north during our difficult times or elsewhere across the world. We have no issue in saying that the taking of life is wrong. But where we do find it slightly hypocritical is where people are trying to, and it appears as if it's happened in this chamber today, put one tragedy against another because they may disagree with people in this room over different issues. And I believe that that's wrong. If you're going to genuinely express your sympathies, do it without getting involved in a silly row in this chamber. Do it from sincerity and do it for the right reasons. Don't be doing it to try to score points about what's going on in other parts of the world where members of this council may or may not support. What happened in Sydney was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. what happened in Palestine is wrong and shouldn't be happening. And killing people anywhere across the world is wrong and shouldn't be happening. And governments and people with power should be doing all they can to stop it, not trying to make cheap political points in this chamber against opponents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair. Chair, I want to state that what happened in Australia was completely wrong. And what happened recently outside a synagogue in England was completely and utterly wrong and indefensible. But I'm a bit, it's being used on here today, particularly by Alderman Hussey, and he's using that tragic mass death, which is completely unjustified, in an attempt to attack a peaceful BDS movement. It's cynical, it's disgusting, and it's wrong. And I want to state unequivocally what happened to those people in Australia and what happened to the Jewish community recently in England is wrong and cannot be justified.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Murphy.
Goes without saying that we send our heartfelt condolences to the people affected in the Bondi Beach attack and the Jewish people throughout the world. But I don't think it's a time to create a hierarchy of victimhood. And I think that that's what's happening today in the chamber. Let's be honest, let's value each life individually as equal, and let's condemn murder for what it is from wherever it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. I have Councillor Raymond Barr online.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, Mayor, without elaborating on Councillor Harkins and Councillor Donnelly's comments, I would just like to endorse and be associated with their comments in their entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. And just as Mayor of the City and District, I too would like to offer my own personal condolences to those who lost their life or were injured in that attack. And I don't envisage there's any opposition to that letter going from on behalf of the council. So thank you, members. Members, it was remiss of me as well. I'd like a letter of condolence sent to our cultural officer, Irish language officer, Paul Friel, on the sad passing of his father recently. So members in agreement, yeah. Thank you. Our next speaker on their chair's business is Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to take time to mention the very sad fact that there have been 4 fire deaths that have occurred in people's own homes here in the north in this past week. For decades, statistics have shown that the majority of fire deaths actually occur in people's own homes. The figure of 4 deaths in a week from accidental fires is not one that I have ever encountered before. However, notwithstanding what I'm after saying, the people that have lost their lives should not be regarded as statistics. They are actual family members and loved by their family. And I'd like to pass our condolences and sympathies to the families and friends. The number of house fires does increase in the winter months, and the fire service have published online fire safety and home advice that people should read carefully and comply with. I would ask that this advice from the Fire and Rescue Service is also promoted by Council on their social media, and I would ask all aldermen and councillors to consider doing the same. Finally, in the same theme of keeping people safe from fire in their homes, it's also an opportunity to mention a piece of legislation. That's the smoke, heat and carbon monoxide alarms for private tenancy regulations, Northern Ireland 2024. Now, this regulation came into place this time last year, and it states that landlords must fit smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms in their rental properties, and that tenants are required by this legislation to report to their landlord any defective alarms.
Thanks for that, Councillor Leonard. Any other member wish to comment on that? Councillor Harkin.
Thank you for to Councillor Leonard for raising this. I think it's very important, and I want to send my condolences and solidarity to the families of those who have died recently as a result of fatal fires. And I think that we have to make sure that the fire service is properly funded in order to be able to raise awareness around this in schools and community centres, and avail of all opportunities to speak to people about the importance of proper security at home and making sure their alarms are working and what kind of sockets are appropriate and what shouldn't be left on when people leave their homes. It's also the case that we have had discussions in here about the need for proper regulation of different forms of housing and accommodation, and I think that this speaks volumes about the necessity of that as soon as possible. It's something that the fire service representatives that have come in to speak to us have been very, very concerned about, and I think we should continue that collaboration with them to make sure that we do everything we can to avoid fires, home fires and fatalities. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harrigan. Deputy Mayor Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor. And just I'd like to put on record too our condolences from our party as well. And I really want to thank Councillor Leonard for bringing this up. I know it's something that he's very passionate about, and rightly so that you brought it to this chamber today. And the more legislation and the more we can put into avoiding these kind of tragedies is really important. But I just want to put my condolences on record. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Boyle, John Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and again, on behalf of the SDLP, we would also like to extend our condolences to all of those who've been affected by the very recent fire tragedies that we've seen here in the north. And I know that Councillor Leonard in particular is very passionate about this particular subject. I think it's a subject that we are all rightly concerned for, and it is very true that it's very evident that these sorts of tragedies do appear to occur much more in the winter months. And again, messaging around this is very important as well. And I commend the fire service actually for the work that they've done this week in terms of trying to highlight the matter. It's only right that they did so, and it's right that they continue to do so as well. And again, of course, we're very appreciative of all of their efforts, whether it be trying to highlight matters like this, or of course trying to come to people's rescue. And obviously, again, sincerely hope that we don't see any more such tragedies. But people do. There is some education around it as well. Councillor Harkin's quite correct. People need to understand the importance of, particularly at this time of year, switching off an awful lot of the extra lighting that they may well have in their homes, for example, or even something as simple as charging your mobile phone and sticking it underneath your pillow. I mean, that even in itself, something as simple as that can cause a fire. So again, it's heartbreaking to read those sorts of stories. I know many people in this city have been touched in this way over the years. I know some people personally who've lost family members in house fires. I'm sure we all do. So again, our hearts go out to them all.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Nairi McMorris.
Sorry, I just wanted to come in and say, just if there's anybody listening, or if we could put it out in social media, but the fire service does actually do free checks on homes. So if you have no fire alarms in your homes or whatever, they do come out and they would install them for you. And I think that's important. If we have people in our city and district who don't have smoke alarms or carbon monoxide alarms or anything else that could avoid these tragedies, then we should be selling that out there so that people are availing of these checks. So I just wanted to bring a mention, and that the fire service do offer that free of charge. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey.
Very briefly, it's all been said, and thanks to Councillor Leonard, who obviously has a lot of experience in the area. Sympathy to those families who have been devastated by these 4 tragedies over this past very short period of time. Also, as Councillor Boyle has referred to, the fire service themselves have been quite proactive in putting out information And as Councillor Leonard has perhaps suggested there, we should all be sharing that information out to all of our contacts and ensuring people or asking people to ensure that they raise their vigilance around this particular issue, and particularly at this time of year. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, members, and thank you, Councillor Leonard, for that. Our next item is Councillor Alex Duffy. Sandra Duffy.
Sorry, I wasn't even paying attention there. Mayor, thank you for allowing me in, and I am going to be brief. I want to raise an issue around on-street community youth, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details because a lot of the information isn't in the public domain at this point. But I just want to put on record that there is a funding crisis at the minute in terms of on-street community youth. They are an anchor tenant in our community centre in Galia. So I have forwarded a short proposal to Teresa. I have been talking to the manager, I've been talking to our council officers, I've been talking to Housing Executive and DFC over the course of the weekend and this week in relation to some of the issues. So on-street community youth, for those that don't know, are the anchor tenant in our Galia Community Centre. While they are called on-street community youth, they do so much more than youth services. Particularly over the summer months, we have seen the really successful Galia Fela being led by them, with all the community taking part. And it has really worked to address a lot of the anti-community behaviour that we have seen in recent years. They provide services from young children to our older population within the community centre. So any danger to them at this point, I don't think that we would want to see anything. So I have a short proposal that I have sent to Teresa that I would like to put to the floor, and it's just to allow council officers to continue to work with them to find a short-term solution and allow them to explore longer-term funding sustainable solutions into the future to ensure their security and be able to continue to provide services within the Galia community. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy, and I think just given the extent of the problem and the issue and the time of year that it's at, particularly, I'll allow the proposal. Councillor Jackson.
Simply just to second the proposal, Chair.
Councillor Jackson seconded. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you for bringing me in, and I will declare an interest as a board member of On-Street Community Youth. The SDLP are happy, more than happy in fact, they support the proposal. I spoke with our Chief Executive about 3 months ago regarding this issue, and I'm happy to say that council officers have been working with On-Street Community Youth Management and Board from them to try and find a solution to this. Our Community Development Officer, Barry O'Hagan, at 1 p.m. today attended a meeting with On-Street Community Youth DFC and other representatives to try and find a way forward. Hopefully that is something that we can do. Whilst the proposal before us asks that council continue to work with On-Street to find a way, and I agree with everything that Councillor Duffy said around the work that On-Street have been involved in, particularly in Galia, but right across the Ballyarnett DEA. And if it wasn't for On-Street Community Youth, there would have been no Galia Fela. And Mayor, I know that you were at the Fela in the summer. There would be ongoing high levels of antisocial behaviour. It is very likely that there would have been a bonfire on the site at Galia Park over this last number of years. And the ongoing, I suppose, low-level intimidation of residents right across the state would be continuing. I've been a councillor and a resident in Galia throughout my duration in this council, and this, thankfully, is a time when antisocial behaviour levels in our community are at an all-time low. Community services and activities are at an all-time high, and that is due to the work of On-Street Community Youth and others with support from this council and DFC in terms of community facilities. it would be an absolute shame to see anything happen to that organisation or those facilities in terms of the community services that they continue to run. The reason, without going into too much detail, is there was a gap in community development in the Gailey area, and on-street community youth stepped into it, filled it, and have now, in many ways, and I've explained this to council officers several occasions, been a victim of their own success in terms of the nature of where we find ourselves at. So, as a board member of on-street community youth, as a resident in Gailey, and as a councillor in this council, I'm delighted to see that proposal there. It's timely, but this does not mean that the work to try and save on-street starts today. It started months ago, and council have been fully engaged on it. And the more that they're engaged on it with other partners, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So the SDLP are happy to support the proposal. And as I say, as a resident in the community and a councillor for that area, I'm only too happy to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thank you to Sandra for bringing this forward. On-street youth work is something that's been talked about a lot recently. About 2 weeks ago, we seen the assault of a young boy in Everton Square, where 20 youths attacked him and left him in hospital with serious injuries. This is something that's we're seeing more often. And I think, and I've been championing for this for a long time, about how we need to put things in the place where we can avoid these kind of things. And we see the benefits of on-the-street workers, and what they can do and what they can dissipate within the community. So we have absolutely no hesitation in supporting that for the Gailey area. But I would just like to put on record too that, you know, the Waterside is seeing a massive deficit within youth workers and youth provision. And I think I'm having several meetings in January with different youth organisations in order to try and look at the whole thing about the Waterside, whether it be just youth centres and youth provision or on streets or what we can do. So there's a piece of work needed there too as well for the Waterside, but certainly, you know, we have no hesitation on supporting any interventions or methods of helping suppose dissipates antisocial behaviour and other issues within our community. So thank you for bringing it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Duffy for bringing in the proposal, and People Before Profit are happy to support it. There should be proper funding for organisations delivering youth services. I think it's disgraceful that any organisation providing vital services to young people in our communities would be facing cuts or would be facing uncertainty about their future. I think we have become a child-friendly city, and I think we have to make sure that we're fighting on every front to deliver on that promise. We know that there's a lot of challenges now for young people. There should be more funding for youth services, not less, and that's why I think as a council we should do everything we can to make sure that these services are supported in Gailey, but not just in Gailey, right across the city and right across the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Members, there's no more indicated speakers. I'm sensing there's unanimous support here for that proposal. We're okay to take it as passed then. Okay, so thank you, Councillor Duffy. Members, that takes us to our final member, which is Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor. I want to bring to the attention of Council the achievements of 2 residents of our council area. The first would be a Derg resident, and that's Mr. Edward Stevenson, who has just completed 15 years as Grand Master of the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland. He's finished his term, and I would personally pay tribute to him for how he has carried out that role during his 15-year period. It's seen a steadying of the organisation. It's seen a growth in junior membership, and Mr. Stevenson is to be congratulated on that. And I would hope that Council would be able to forward congratulations to Edward Stevenson and indeed perhaps consider a recognition event for his achievement as past Grand Master. The second resident is Mr. Derek Rennie. Derek is a resident of the Spurn DEA, and he has just been elected as Deputy Master of the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland. A great achievement for Derek, and many will know Derek through his work in the Ulster Scots Agency. And again, I would commend and wish him, and I trust Council will wish him every good fortune going forward in his role as Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Members, my apologies. Councillor Hutton, you had an issue you wanted to raise?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight here today the fact that we're all in the middle of the festive season. It's a time of joy and happiness for most people, but it also can be a time of darkness and despair for others as well. And I would like to request that the Council Comms team this Christmas put it on their agenda to highlight some of the services that are out there if people are in need. And what I would like to ask them to do is possibly share all of the information around the Lighthouse project, which is a collaboration between Danny Quigley and Foyle Search and Rescue. And it's basically a central database of services right across the city and district. And that ranges from addiction services to mental health services, to student services, disability support, ethnic minority group support. So it was just to ask Council to do that because I think some people have a fear that when things close down, the help stops, and it actually doesn't. And the Lighthouse Project app and website is a great resource for everyone to access if they're in need of any type of support over the holiday season. So thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hutton. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, and thank you, Aisling, for bringing that forward. I was at a End Violence Against Women and Girls event there last week, and the Lighthouse Project was there. And I found it fascinating that they have these wee stickers that you can put on the toilets, or I actually have them in our office now as well. And where if anybody was in need or anything, if they put their phone on, all of the information for every single service is on it. So all they have to do is put their phone to this wee sticker, yellow sticker, and it's absolutely amazing. And I've took a lot of stickers from them, and I have them up wherever I can randomly put them. But they can access everything through there, and I just was blown away about how ingenious their wee thing was. Something so simple, but it gets that message out throughout the district. But well done, and thank you for bringing that up, Aisling. Thank you.
Okay, members, that brings us to the end of Chair's business. We're getting through rightly, so hopefully we'll continue in that vein. Which brings us on then to item 6, which is the confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of full council from Wednesday, 26th of November 2025. So under accuracy, pages 5 to 28, proposed by Alderman Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Devine. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 448 on page 19. The issue of connectivity to the Appalachian Way and the Wild Atlantic Way and the Ulster Way to that overall project. Said there that I would receive a response. I haven't received that response, but can I presume that it's in the pipeline? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll bring something back to the committee in January.
So thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. It's C458/25. And first of all, we'd like to commend council officers who assisted in the facilitation of the meeting with the families and supporters of the hunger strikers, the prisoners for Palestine, following Councillor Gary Donnelly's motion at the last full council meeting. That meeting was held at Westminster on Monday, and a number of us were able to attend. Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Gallagher and Councillor Barr made it over to London. A number of us then were able to join the meeting via a Zoom link. And I have to say it was a very difficult meeting because the situation facing the hunger strikers right now is a very difficult one. As people may know, there are 8 members of Prisoners for Palestine who are currently on hunger strike, and 2 of them have passed the 40-day mark. And I've been following Zara Sultana's postings today. She's the former Labour Party MP, and it's very worrying. She's at HMP Bronzefield, and an hour ago she was saying an ambulance for one of the hunger strikers, a young woman, has not been allowed to go in, and that the prisoner is being denied medical attention. So we're at a very worrying stage right now where it's possible that in the next couple of days we're going to have a tragic situation where a hunger striker could die. And I think that this is, if that happens, it's going to be fully the responsibility of the British government. The demands of the hunger strikers, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many people, are very reasonable and just. They want an end to censorship. They want a fair trial. They want an end to the unfair and unjust prescription of Palestine action, something that this council has called for and many other bodies, including trade unions. And they want the closure of Elbit systems. And if people don't know what Elbit is Israel's largest manufacturer of weapons, and they have received public contracts over the last decade or more worth £355 million, and they are scheduled to have a new contract signed by the Starmer government worth £2 billion. And this is one of the demands that the strikers have, and they want this to be foreground. I think as a council, we should do everything we can to urge the British government to meet the demands of the strikers so that none of them are allowed to die. And it is completely within our corporate policy of BDS to call for no public funding to be going to Elbit Systems, an organisation that is part of the machinery of genocide. So I think it was a very important motion that Councillor Donnelly brought forward. I think it was a very important act for our councillors to be in London, to join that meeting with the families of the hunger strikers. But we're at a very, very worrying stage right now. And if any of them are allowed to die, the blood will be on Keir Starmer's hands. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, Councillor Harkin's right when he says about the meeting being a very difficult meeting. It is one of the most difficult meetings that I've ever been to. They listen to the families, they see the concern, they hear the stories about how their loved ones are being denied proper medical treatment. And it was something that I will remember for a long time. These are just ordinary British young people who, at a time when there's an unfolding genocide, took an honourable actions, non-violent. They destroyed drones, predator drones, which I don't know what type of mind designs these, but they emit the sound of a crying child to entice people out to then be shot. And that's what they destroyed. That is the type of weaponry that shouldn't be made there in the first place. Their government should have been not assisting a genocide or gathering intelligence or allowing these weapons to be made. They're ordinary people. Many of them have no convictions, and now some of them are in day 46 of a hunger strike, which is a very, very critical time. We've lost a hunger striker of 46 days. And I think it's absolutely shocking, the the reaction or lack of reaction by the British establishment is whilst we've seen it with our own experience, it's not surprising, but it doesn't make it any less shocking. They're in for so-called offences that would have been given bail, and anyone who attended the hearing would have heard one of the families saying that if my relative had to stab somebody, they would be out in bail, as is standard. We've heard one of the family members who's a GP telling about how it's not the health service that's, running the what type of medical treatment they get, but the prison governor is overriding that. And I think it's absolute tragic that these people could be ours from death. And I agree with Councillor Harkin here, and and I think that more and more people need to be speaking out and using whatever avenues they have. Whether they're going to be listened to is another thing, but I think we have a duty to try and get this resolved so that none of these young people lose their lives. Thanks, Adair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly, and Councillor McDaid.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks to Councillor Harkin for raising it. And there's probably not much more can be said from what Councillor Harkin, Councillor Donnelly's already said, but I was on that meeting as well, and to say that it was emotional to listen to what they are going through is an understatement. I was going to comment on the fact that the governor within the prison seems to be taking these medical decisions, and some of the stories that the families were saying are not just a disgrace, but it sounds very dangerous, that people with, medical conditions aren't being listened to. The ambulances are being left for hours and hours and hours before they're phoned. And I know I've been following Zara Sultana today and yesterday as well, and it seems to be a bit of a pattern. So I think that we do, like Councillor Donnelly says, we need to continue to raise our voices about this, because this is normal. Young people who decided to take an action, and they would be out in bail if they'd stabbed someone. Again, just to quote one of the family members, seems to be a bit of overkill, keeping these people in jail for this. And I think from the SLP's perspective, we send our solidarity to the families, and we'll continue to do what we can from a party perspective to support them. And I'm sure our council will continue to do it as well. And to say thank you to the officers, because they got that organised really quickly and really well organised. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor McDaid, and Councillor Murphy.
I attended the meeting as well the other day with some colleagues. It was harrowing listening to some of the stories from the families of the hunger strikers. One in particular, Kessler Zara, is now on her 46th day of hunger strike and needs immediate attention, medical attention. She needs to be released from the prison and given that attention. As of 2 hours ago, that hadn't happened. David Lammy needs to come out publicly and admit that a hunger strike has taken place. Up until this moment in time, the British government have not even acknowledged the fact that people are starving. There are primarily 8 young advocates against genocide and advocates for civil rights for the Palestinian people. So we are totally and absolutely clear on this. No one should be criminalised for protesting against the genocide. We support the hunger strikers, and we hope that the British government begin to act in a manner befitting the situation, the serious situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Members, any other matters arising under last month's full council? No, so we'll move on then to minutes of the Government Strategic Planning Committee. For accuracy, pages 29 to 42. Proposed by Councillor Sandra Duffy, seconded by Alderman Hussey. Matters arising, Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Chair or Mayor, I want to raise something under DSP 228/25, which was the deputation from the Housing Executive, and I raised the fact that it was Homeless Awareness Week at that stage. So I just wanted to comment on the newly published figures from NISRA relating to homeless deaths across the north. These figures themselves are nothing short of heartbreaking. There was an estimated 58 people experiencing homelessness who died last year across the north. The theme of Homeless Awareness Week at the beginning of this month was See the Person. So when we do that, we have to remember that these aren't statistics. They're fathers, their mothers, sons and daughters, and whose lives ended far too soon and far too alone. What is especially stark, Mayor, is in our community here, Derry City and Strabane, we recorded 13 of those deaths, and that is the highest per capita figure for the North. It's a tragic reflection on a system that is failing people in their most vulnerable hours. This must be a moment of collective resolve for us here. We need urgent action on prevention, housing supply, addiction support and mental health services. And we need it now, not tomorrow. Homelessness isn't inevitable, it is preventable, but only if we all work together across government, charities, community groups and every part of society to provide safety, dignity and real support. Life should be precious and health inequalities are cutting it short. I would like to also comment that as a council, we have established a health inequalities and homelessness group. It is supported by homeless organisations, the university, the PHA and the trust. And we have also passed a motion here calling for a better resourced homeless health team. So I think that needs to, it would be good if we could hear back from the Minister in relation to that. But we have also prioritised vulnerable people within our city centre as part of our Plan for Neighbourhood or the new Pride in Place programme. And I think that we need to be putting all that on record because as a council area, we are working to try and address some of these issues, but we probably need to work faster and a bit harder. So more needs to be done, and I really look forward to hearing about the Complex Lives model as well that we have asked for that presentation. We think that model could be moulded to something that we could use here in this city and district, because every death we prevent is a life saved, and I think that it's really important that we put that on record. 13 deaths in this council area is far too high. One death is too high when it is preventable. So thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. It's only just a wee bit of business that I was going to bring under chairperson's business, Mayor, but yeah, exactly, I forgot about that. I have two changes to committees. I can, governance strategic plan is one of the committees. I can do them individually or do them both now at the stage. Just changing governance strategic plan and removing Alderman Wilkinson and putting on myself, Alderman Kerrigan. And the other one is health and communities, removing Alderman Wilkinson and putting on Alderman Cook. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Alderman Kerrigan. Members, that'll take us. Sorry, Philip.
Members, it's GSP 239 of 25, the judicial review involving Belfast City Council. It's just to provide members with an update in relation to that. Let you know that we did attend that court in relation to that matter, and the court indicated that it did want to hear from other councils where possible, and consequently this council has been granted notice party status to provide both written and oral submissions in relation to the matter. Case has been listed for hearing on the 14th and the 16th of January, with a number of written submissions to be done in the meantime. So we'll provide further update just at GSP in January, and then obviously as and when we get a judgment in due course, members. And if anybody has any questions in the interim, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you for that, Philip. Members, that takes us on then to the monthly planning committee for accuracy, pages 43 to 56. Alderman Montgomery proposed, seconded by Councillor John Boyle. Any matters arising out of those minutes? Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, it's P168/25, and this is in regard to the discussion at the committee meeting in response to the Minister's letter about HMOs, which I think should be acknowledged and discussed by the full chamber. There was a proposal from Councillor Logue at the meeting for the council to change its HMO policy from 30% in the local development policy to 10%. This is something that many people have advocated for, particularly residents in the vicinity of McGee. And it's something that we have debated here, and there was some sharp words at different times about whether or not it was feasible for the council to actually adopt 10% HMO policy rather than 30%. So I welcome the opportunity that we now have and the support that it appears the proposal has for the council to change HOU 13 of the LDP from 30% to 10%. I think this is something that would be welcomed by many of the residents who are concerned about the impact of HMOs and the change of character to a residential area. I do find it a bit frustrating that only a number of months ago we were told that this was completely impossible, and now it seems like because of a minister sending out a letter, now it is possible. And if it was possible now, it was probably possible earlier. But I do support the proposal that we do this as soon as we can. I look forward to the paper being brought in February from council officers going over the impact of this. And I would want to vote today for all the councillors to be able to participate in this vote to support the recommendations coming out of that meeting. There are a few other things in regard to HMOs that I wanted to raise today. One is just that there seems to be some confusion about how complaints are handled, and I think that this has been addressed to the council by different residents groups, and I think that's something we should be on the front foot about. The second is just to go back to the SPG consultation again on, I know that council officers had said that it's open-ended, but it would be useful if we have a date for when we believe that the consultation will come to an end, so that some of the timing, particularly for those who want to contribute to it, is known. And then just the last point that I wanted to make, which was about a recent hearing at the planning commission, which was about where a proposal the council made was overturned by the planning commissioner, and it seemed to be the case that the council didn't really defend its position, which was to overturn a particular HMO application. So it sailed through at the PAC. And I just think, look, people are watching this, and they've been asking questions about why did the council not properly defend its own position. And this was in regard to a HMO application at Corridon that council had turned down, Clarendon Street that council had turned down. So I think it's important that this is raised in the chamber. But Mayor, I would like to propose that the entire chamber today formally vote on the proposal to change our HMO policy from 30% to 10% as soon as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Harkin, just to clarify, are you making a different proposal from the proposal that's within the committee report, or are you just seeking council to endorse that recommendation?
I'm not making a different proposal. I just think in terms of ratifying that, it's important, given that the whole chamber, I think we had a special meeting on the LDP. So I think if we're going to change it, it should be something that the full council is clearly endorsing. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I have a number of members indicated here. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to say I agree with the interpretation of Councillor Harkin. One of the issues around planning committee is that it's autonomous and separate from council, and I think there has to be that distinction that as a council we're endorsing although it may not be a separate proposal, but we need as a council to endorse the recommendation, and I congratulate Councillor Logan bringing that forward. I also think, despite reservations about the content of the letter, it is welcome that the Communities Minister recognised the issue that was developing, not just here in the city and beyond, but in various areas throughout Northern Ireland. It's something that has been talked about in this chamber when we've had the likes of Craman. The 10% should be what we're looking at. Perhaps a clarification. When we take this decision, and I say when, I don't think it's a case of if, I think it's what this council wants. What ramifications are there for within that for the implementation of the LDP going forward? Thank you.
Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Mayor, for bringing me in. And I think that was the purpose of my proposal, was to bring a paper in to explain what the implications would be for this council. So what we're ratifying today, just for clarity, is that we are agreeing to bring a report into council to see, to lay out all of the implications that would be involved in changing our LDP. So that's just for clarity. But also too, I just want to touch on one of the items that Sean raised there now regarding the licensing. I did also speak that there needs to be a more robust situation put in place regarding for people who have complaints or whatever nature for a HMO. So that is also going to be in the report that we're ratifying to bring forward. So that's just for clarity. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't mind admitting that when Councillor Harkin finished speaking, I was slightly confused, and I thank Councillor Lowe for clearing things up, even at least for me. We were of the understanding and supported the proposal at the Planning Committee for a further paper to come back to provide the Planning Committee, i.e. the wider council as well, with all of the implications of what reducing the percentage from 30 down to 10 would mean for council. And I appreciate Councillor Harkin has been saying that there's a lot of work done by residents groups and others around this. And I have met with a number of them on a number of occasions over recent weeks. I want this council to go to 10% HMOs in particular areas. There's no issue around that whatsoever. That's where we need to get to. But I think the residents certainly the residents that I have met would expect us to do our due diligence and make sure that we know what the implications are for and against that policy before we unilaterally make a decision here today that we're just going to go ahead and do it. The aim for quite a long time, as I understand it, for this council, and it has been referenced at a number of full council meetings, and I understand it at a number of planning meetings as well, is that the aim in particular areas, particularly the area around the university, is to get that figure down to 10%. That's also unequivocally the aim of our party. That's where we want to get to. But we understand and appreciate that we have to go through a process to get there. We hope that that process isn't too long. We hope it's speedy. We hope it's speedy for the residents so that they can take the assurance to see that it's moving on. But we also want to make sure that we're going through the right process and we're doing it the right way so that residents are protected after the decision is made, because I think it's important that we know exactly what we're doing before we do it, so that that offers a blanket of safety to the residents who are going to be impacted by this decision. We are more than happy to continue supporting Councillor Lowe's proposal at the committee. I, again, will admit I don't know what Councillor Harkin's proposal today is. I honestly don't know. But our position is that we look forward to the paper coming back in a timely manner so that we can move this on. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Mooney, had you indicated to come on there?
Thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Tierney has said it, spoke as much as I wanted to say anyway, but I'm not on the planning committee at this stage, but I do still have an interest in it. But it really was that when I heard Councillor Harris' proposal, I did think I was in the position to move, and I think Councillor Logue's proposal is eminently sensible, that we need a paper. I mean, it wasn't so long ago in July that we all took this decision, but obviously there is issues that are remaining about this 10% issue and the 30% amongst these areas. It's probably not entirely settled at the moment because it's still very early on, but it still brings concern to those people, especially I suppose in the Foyleside community and around McGee and those areas that were colloquially known as hotspots. But the issue I have really is, that the paper will have to obviously tackle how do we do this, because not so long ago in July we implemented the LDP, and it's a matter of the law, it's through the Planning Act that was done. As I said, I've been doing a bit of reading on this lately, the last couple of months, and the only way I can see it, but obviously I'm sure the city solicitor will confirm, is for us to change that LDP, well, that will probably, maybe subject to correction, probably necessitate engagement of Section 13 or Section 14 of the Plan Act. That's review of the LDP, which is another statutory process. The questions I would like to see probably answered in that paper would be is, can we do it on a sort of partial review? Do we need to do entire review if we're going to open that up again, or can we just do it on the actual basis of the HMO policies that we have in that document now? And these are questions that probably need to be asked and answered in that paper, because they are fundamentally important for us to make that decision. If we have to open up the entire document again, that's another scenario, that another vista that I don't want to probably see. I'd like to see it probably that we would able to do it in a much more sort of, focused position, i.e. on that particular sections, House 13, House 14, and maybe the other ones as well. I did have an opportunity last month to send a message in the private office of the infrastructure minister, just on this, because I was looking at it, and I do know from the minister's perspective that the department's not considering review at this stage, quite understandably, because it's only 3 or 4 months down the line that this document's been brought in. But it's up to us, because we can do it as well. But we need to know what we're going to be doing. We need to know information that we're going to be looking at, and probably in and around that area, we need to be able to probably augment that probably with a lot more diligent or a lot more coherent advice in the SPGs, I suppose, in the HMOs, because Councillor Harkin did mention a recent decision, which I have here. I was reading it this morning because I had printed off this morning, about the Clarendon Street application. I don't share his views entirely about that, because I've read the document, but I can see where agents are going to be using the current LTP to move applications, which is in their want and which is what they do. I'm not going to criticise them for that. But what we need to be looking at is, obviously, they won their appeal basically on the exceptional circumstances case, and they provided a lot of evidence. I don't think council were in a position to defend that robustly enough, not through their own fault, just because they didn't have the evidence, I suppose. And I won't criticise them at this stage, because it would be unfair for me to do so. But the document does make good reading for planning committee members and for council members to look at, because it does give you the first glimpse as to how the PAC are interpreting HO 13 and 14, and how they're going to probably interpret it down the road. So I think for members, it's good reading to see how, especially an appellate body like the PAC are going to interpret it. But at this stage, I think Councillor Lowe's proposal is probably the fairest way forward. Today, they turn around and say we want to just vote on 10% will be unfair, because we need to see the paper, and we especially need to see how we're going to get there. And that's an important thing for me. And maybe I don't know what the rest of the members think, but for me, that would be the important thing. And I think that the paper needs to be extensive and needs to cover those points, because it's a crucial matter that we're looking at again and reinvestigating in an early stage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mayor. I suppose we've discussed the paper before we've even seen it. But there's, and I know Councillor Lowe sort of provided that clarity, and it is only right that it's raised at this meeting because it has ramifications for the entire council. But the one thing that hasn't been touched on yet, like this RLDP, whilst it was signed off a few months ago, it was submitted long before that. It was approved by the minister 12 months ago. We were given the direction to adopt 12 months ago. So it was it's been in the system quite some time, but the rationale, well, I'm not surprised that there's unanimous or widespread support within this chamber, because all the working groups in relation to HMOs, all the discussions, every single party who took the time to attend, we were all saying the same thing in relation to 10% and the need to protect communities. It was the HMO management area was always envisaged would be set out as part of the local policies plan. The frustration that led to the proposal that Patricia made a few weeks ago was the length of time and the lack of progress, or the lack of progress that we've made up until now in advancing the local policies plan. That's led to the frustration. They say if we're not advancing, we're not making progress in the local policies plan, and the anticipated time frame is far beyond what we've initially expected, then we can't afford to be sitting with the same policies in that interim period. So that's just the thing that I wanted to provide that additional clarity is around the rationale for the proposal, because we had anticipated that we would be far more advanced in the local policies plan by this stage, and it is extremely disappointing that very little progress has been made. So that was the rationale, and I think it's important to put that context out if we're discussing it as a whole. But we certainly look forward to the paper and exploring what options are available to us to help manage and control HMO developments going forward. Good, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. So members, there's no need to actually take a vote because, as you know, full council is for to endorse the recommendations of the previous committees of the previous month, and Councillor Logue's proposal contained within the planning committee minutes. When that report's forthcoming, issues will be discussed there, and anybody who wants to raise an issue can raise it then. So, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I think it was this is a significant decision for the council to change the interim HMO policy because we spent so much time talking about it, and I was really just endorsing what's in the minutes from what Councillor Logue had said. She, in the minutes, proposes a change of the cap from 30 to 10. The actual recommendation is for a paper to be brought in as soon as possible discussing that proposal. And I do think it's important that the Chamber took the time today and that you allowed it, Mayor, for us to discuss this because it is significant. So I don't have an alternative proposal. It was really just to say this is something that we need to ratify collectively, and I believe that's happening right now as a result of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Members, moving on then to Business and Culture Committee from last month. Matters arising, for under accuracy, pages 57 to 64. Alderman Cook, seconded by Councillor Hutton. Matters arising. Any matters arising? Nobody indicating. So move on then to our previous ENR meeting from last month under accuracy, pages 65 to 74. Alderman Hussey, seconded by Alderman Kerrigan. And for matters arising, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. 276 and 277 on the Artie Garden Residence Group and the Bonds Glen Environmental Group. As I said at committee, myself and Councillor Raymond Barr have met with both these groups separately. I'll leave comments with regard to the Artie Garden Group until the next set of minutes because Councillor Barr has brought that up in that committee of which he's a member. But if I can refer to the Bonds Glen Environmental Group, again, I want to emphasise that what I witnessed being brought to us from that group was, as I described there, catastrophic environmental vandalism. And I believe that has to be counteracted at the earliest. I know the officer has said that it's currently subject to planning enforcement and engagement, and agreed an update at a future committee meeting. I think we need to be more time bound than that. And I honestly believe that a meeting with that group, who feel abandoned by basically all of the agencies, is what we need, similar to the proposal that will come in the next set of minutes. And on that basis, I would seek to propose that Council facilitates a multi-agency meeting with the Bonds Glen Environmental Group, relevant statutory agents and members. And I would also suggest that the Minister, Minister Muir, should be invited to attend that meeting, whether he can come or not, but he should be invited to attend it. So I would make that as a proposal arising out of that section 277 in the Environmental and Regeneration Minutes.
I second that, Chair. Councillor Barr.
Okay, Councillor Barr. I don't envisage any opposition to that. Alderman Kerrigan.
Sorry, Mayor, just I suppose there's a point of accuracy there. ER 28125. I did declare a declaration of interest in regards to housing executive, but I was online and therefore I didn't have an opportunity to fill in the form and give it to the staff member. So it was just an item must. So just noting that declaration. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrigan. Just an item under accuracy there, noted by the staff there. Any other matters arising under those minutes, members? Councillor Boggs.
Can I just ask? The issue was raised under Artie Garvin order, but is the issue regarding Bonds Glen that Alderman Hussey is raising because the minutes aren't
277. Page 65.
Apologies. Sorry, that's where my confusion is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Alderman Hussey.
Okay. Members, that takes us now to our previous Health and Communities Committee meeting last month. For accuracy, pages 75 to 90. Alderman Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Devine. And for matters arising, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. It's just had to see 325 Pride of Place. And Mayor, I was just wondering, was there any update in the official ceremony around the Ivan Bar Bridge that was passed a number of months ago? I was wondering, was there any update on that?
I'd advise there'll be a paper brought back to discuss it in the January meeting, or at the relevant committee, sorry, as soon as possible.
Just, I'm sort of a bit confused. I know it was passed, the motion was passed a few months ago. Does it require another report? I'm just thinking to myself, I thought it would be, similar to other recognitions.
I think it's probably an options paper that's maybe being brought back.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
paper, as I understand it, in relation to needs to be planned.
Okay, it's an update paper to update on the nature of the event that's being planned.
Okay, thank you. Just, Chair, it would be nice maybe there was correspondence with the family, that would take place in the meantime. Thank you.
Okay. Any other matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, sir. As I indicated in the previous minutes, HC 316, like Patrick Derry's, Artie Garvin, the proposal is there and obviously endorsed by adoption of the minutes, and talks about members. Could I request that DERG members are included in that invitation? And the reason being there was a question raised by that group as to where tankers that were bringing materials out of the facility were actually disposing. And the suggestion was that the disposal sites are actually in the Derg electoral area. So it will be of concern to Derg members on that particular aspect of the issues around Artie So on that basis, not just Spurn members, but I would ask that Derg members would be included in that invitation as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Devine.
Good Mayor. It's HC 312/25, the deputation. At the deputation, I'd asked about the standards that are in place for foods or meals that are provided in our schools in the district and in the healthcare or hospital settings. And it was advised that they were based on established nutritional standards. Since that meeting, I've discovered that our schools are operating on guidance from 2007, so that's almost 2 decades old, despite these food standards having been revised and consulted on in 2020. In September this year, the Health Minister announced that the updated standards would now be adopted across our health and social care settings, and I think we urgently need the Education Minister to do the same. We know that there's strong evidence that establishing healthy eating habits in early life is critical, as childhood eating patterns are strong influences for lifelong behaviours and can significantly reduce the risk of developing loads of different chronic diseases and long-term conditions in the future. I think if we're serious about reducing the prevalence of overweight and obesity and delivering on the new Healthy Futures obesity strategy, then updating the school food standards is essential. Given we're now in 2025 and the evidence and the research is continuing to evolve, I think it's imperative that the revised minimum standards are adopted in our schools without delay. So, Mayor, I'm proposing that we write to the Education Minister seeking clarity on his plans and the timeline for replacing these standards with the new updated ones, and urging him to prioritise their implementation to ensure that the food in schools aligns with the most up-to-date guidance.
Okay, just need a seconder for that. Councillor Boggs. Any other member wish to comment on that proposal? No, take it as unanimously supported. So thank you for that, Councillor Devine. Members, I need a, sorry, Councillor Kerrigan, are you looking on?
Just very briefly, Mayor, HC 323/25. And I know I had commented at the meeting, and it's worded just in response to comments and questions, but we still have ongoing issues there in regards to, and it's probably not within, it's probably the council's hands are tied. It's in regards to dog attacks on stock in the Derg area, and these are still ongoing. And I know there's been movement, but there's a lot of frustration, and it's taken a wee bit more of a sinister turn on certain issues there, but that's been raised with PSNI. But, you know, this time last year, there was dog attacks, and from the information, it's the same dogs are attacking this at this time of the year, and there was one yesterday. And I know the dog warden's out steady, but there's a lot of frustration in regards to the farmers in that area, and it's just coming to a head. It's not necessarily the damage done to the stock now, today. It's not the level of dead stock today. It is the future knock-on effect, because those young lambs that are those young stock that are in lamb, they may well abort and may not hold, or else then when you're putting the ram out to the sheep as well, then they'll not hold. So it's a knock-on effect to that is not going to be seen for 9 months, maybe further down the line. And there's a very much frustration in regards to it. And I know there was mentioned even in regards to dog wardens and additional things, but I do feel there's an issue there in regards to our hands are tied. So are the PSNI's hands are tied in regards to dealing with what appears to be irresponsible, maybe dog owners, but it's how this can be properly dealt with. Because I mean, I'm getting it very much in the neck there that this problem was ongoing last year and it's still ongoing this year, and what is happening with it. So I know people and officers are aware of it, but it's just to make sure that we can try, if we can even put something back. My question was, we know maybe what's wrong, how our hands are tied. Can we put something up to the Dairy Minister to try and say, hey, sorry, you're going to have to try and change this legislation a wee bit, or make a shape of it here, because it's not fit for purpose as it stands. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Members, could I have a proposer and seconder to go into confidential, please? Councillor Hutton, seconded by Alderman Montgomery. Just to wait the signal from our IT that we're confidential.